Okay, hello America. Hello Austin, Texas. This is Justin at Seeking Context, and I'm here with my good friend Kaneisha Grayson. Kaneisha, good afternoon. Nice to see you.
Good afternoon, Justin. Really excited to be here with you and your Seeking Context community.
I'm glad you could join us. Kenisha is the founder of The Art of Applying, which is a admissions consulting business for people going into graduate school. She's the host of the Scale Your Joy podcast, and she's the author of Be Your Own Boyfriend, and she is a speaker and an all-around amazing woman and person and a great friend. And it's just great to hear more and learn more about your career and your life, Kenisha.
Yeah, I'm excited to share. Let's get started.
All right. Well, so to get into it, just tell me about a day in the life of Kaneisha Grayson. Like, what do you do at The Art of Applying, and how do you lead your team?
Absolutely. So a day in the life looks like a lot of different activities. One of the most important things it looks like is once a week having a one-on-one with my executive assistant. Her public name that we use is Ellie. That's not her real name. That's what we use in public. And I actually have a podcast interview with her. And we meet up to talk about the most pressing issues happening in the business. And that meeting happens once a week. It's really just focused on things that she's been trying to get my attention on that I've just been like, that question is boring to answer, or that requires too much thinking, and I'm just on my phone and I don't want to type that much.
So she holds you to account.
She definitely holds me to account. It also looks like maybe having a one-on-one with her where it's for her benefit. So that's a professional development meeting where we're talking about what are her professional goals? How can the company help her achieve her professional goals? How is she doing in managing her team? She is the head of like our back-end operations team. So she's got 2 direct reports. How are their one-on-ones going? How is that going? So that's an important part in the day in the life of Kenisha, is either, one-on-ones with my executive assistant that are focused on her, or a one-on-one meeting that's focused on the actual operations of the business. We also have an incoming marketing lead, so I might do a one-on-one with him. We have someone that I'm very excited about, a woman who graduated from Northwestern Kellogg recently. She works full-time somewhere at a very big, well-known company that we all know, and then works for The Art of Applying on the side. And she is going to be trained as a breakthrough coach, which is a sales position in the company. And my vision is that she will then eventually become the head of sales, or the head of enrollment into our programs, as we call it, is enrollment. So I might do a training session with her. We meet once a week. Other things that happen in the day of the life is I get a notification from our software that we use to communicate with our clients that actually, I call it like God mode, and it shows me what's happening in every single client's portal in the last 24 hours. So it's an email that literally just shows me, okay, in Alex's portal, she said this. In Jacob's portal, he uploaded an essay. In Sarah's portal, she asked a question. And I read the whole thing. It takes me 20 minutes, and I go in and give the clients like a gold star for doing their work, or I tell a consultant, you've done a great job in your thorough response. Or I'm like, hey, I don't feel like you really answered that person's question. Or sometimes I even get an idea of like, oh, this person keeps asking for how do you send an email to a current student to ask if you can meet up when you're on campus. We should just go ahead and make a template and put that in the program and then let all the clients know. So it also looks like a day in the life of Kenisha does not look like working one-on-one with clients. It looks more like managing the business, managing the wonderful people who make up the business, and then kind of making myself present for the clients and the consultants in little tiny but meaningful ways to kind of just pat people on the back, encourage them to keep going. It also looks like doing podcasts like this they're just really fun for me, but they also help to get the word out about The Art of Applying, help people get a little bit of a sense of what I, as the founder, am like, since as the founder and the sole owner, a lot of my energy and my personality is infused throughout the business. So those are just some of the things. I do have control over my schedule. So it also looks like, I just bought a house, as we've been talking about. So it also looks
congratulations.
Thank you, Justin. Today, it looked like meeting with a painting company. Then the pest control guys came, and then I talked with the plumber, and then talked to my boyfriend to be like, what can you do versus the plumber? Took my dog Zadie on a walk, talked to the neighbor's kids, let them feed the dog. That was all today.
Are you in your house? Are you in the new house right now?
I'm in the new house, which
all
is
right, sweet.
Yeah, I don't have my usual background because I'm sitting in the dining room at the only place where there's a table because we haven't moved in yet.
That's exciting. First time homeowner, right?
First time homeowner. I'm really excited. And then also my next door neighbors, they're first time homeowners. So we commiserate and co-celebrate.
Right. Celebrate massive debt.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel so massive. After paying off $150K in student loans, I'm like, just got to do that 4 more times.
You'll be fine. You know how to do it.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me about these clients. Like when somebody is applying or comes to join your program, what is it that they're looking for, and what do you help them do?
Absolutely. So our signature program is called Application Accelerator. One thing that makes my company really different than all of the other admissions consulting companies that help people get into graduate school is that we have a hybrid approach. Most companies, if not all of them, have you just work one-on-one with your consultant and hope you like that person and hope they're available to you. But at the Art of Applying, you have your dedicated consultant, but then you're also put into a cohort with all our other clients in the Application Accelerator. So you know each other by first and last name, photo. If you want to, you can speak to each other and interact with each other, and they definitely love to do that. And then you also have access to a whole wider team of experts. So we have a resume specialist who that's her only thing. So she's a Columbia MBA grad, Goldman Sachs alum, and she just does this on the side because she loves working with the clients and helping them with their essays. We have a writing center coach. So we've got all these different specialists also that you have access to. So the types of clients that we really specialize in working with are what I call wild cards. I just kind of took that phrase and really made it my own. And what I mean by that, actually, Justin, me and you were definitely wild cards at HBS. So you were a wild card because you were a little bit older than the average applicant and as a veteran. So those are just 2 of the ones. I don't think you had, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, had you worked full time outside of the military?
I'd never had a normal job.
Exactly. So you were a wild card, and then I was a wild card because I had never had a full-time job because I went from college, did a year in Ghana, then went to the Kennedy School. So I had never had a full-time job either, Justin. So we are wild cards. Other types of wild cards might be people who are neurodiverse. So they may have ADHD or dyslexia or both. They may be LGBTQ. They may come from a really low income background, but now they've kind of made it and they're just like, okay, I have this professional career, I earn well, but I don't have that social capital that other people who grew up in wealthy families have, where you've got 3 uncles and 2 aunts and your parents who've all gone to these really prestigious schools who can help you for free. And you're just looking around like, I don't know anyone who's gone through this process except for like 2 people at work. And I don't want to bother them over and over and over. And so we really specialize in that kind of non-traditional applicant with big dreams and a lot of potential.
That's cool. I watched one of your interviews with one of your successful candidates, and you talked about the myth of the effortless achiever. And you kind of alluded to it in your last thing. So what is this myth and that you've sort of coined, and how has it affected you and the types of people that are working with you to get into the top schools?
Absolutely. So what is the effortless achiever? You may remember this, Justin, from when we were in school, but it's when people at Harvard or other fancy schools say things like this. Oh, you studied last night for the test? I stayed up drinking till 2. I didn't study at all. We'll see how I do. And then they get an A, right? Or the highest score they can get. Or like, oh, like you worked on your applications for 4 months. I wrote mine like 48 hours before the deadline. And like, I'm here to call like on that for several reasons. One, there are some people who can just roll out of bed, 5 minutes before class and not do any of the case prep and not study for the test and just crush it. There are some people who can do that. But a lot of people they just straight fronting, Justin. Okay, so they are pretending that they don't study, or they're pretending that they didn't write 4 drafts of their essay, or they're pretending that they weren't nervous during their admissions interview. And I try and make it very clear to my clients and other people who aren't used to going to boarding schools and prep schools and super fancy private schools, whatever, that there's going to be a lot of people who portray this persona of the effortless achiever, and that it's really important that you not get down on yourself like, but I do have to study, and like the GMAT is hard for me, or like I did not just sit down and drink a craft beer and all of a sudden have an amazing essay. Like I actually had to like work on it over a few weeks. And to just know that there's no shame in needing help. There's no shame in paying for help, expert help from people who believe in you, who have helped people like you, and who can legitimize their claims. And then there's no shame in working hard. And I don't mean hustling or burnout, but in being persistent and taking action towards one's dreams.
Right. So your program's pretty expensive. Yes. How do you convince people that, hey, this is really worth the investment I'm asking for you? Mm-hmm. And then sort of a follow on to that is like, for you, for sort of non-traditional students, especially some that come from low income, how do you sort of balance where you set your price against like kind of a need to help people that may not have the resources? That may be the thing that's preventing them from making a next level.
Yeah. So on our part, what we really do is we've got 2 main offerings at the company. So we have the application accelerator, which does have a big ticket. And then we have hourly coaching, which is literally you just purchasing help by the hour. But then thirdly, we have a service with a $0 price tag, which is called 300 blog posts and probably 100 YouTube videos on our website. And all of that is absolutely free. Just to help you understand how many more free customers we have than paying customers, we work with 50 to 100 clients a year. Those are people who actually pay us money. And the website gets 11 to 25,000 unique monthly visitors.
Really?
Every month.
Way to go, Kenisha.
Thank you, Justin. 11,000 people, right? So basically, I will say that anyone applying to policy school, to a top policy school, uses some of our free advice. And I really mean it when I say anyone, because they're either going to find us talking about the essay prompts, they're going to find us talking about how to write the optional essay, how to format your essay, how to ask for letters of recommendation. So there is enough content on our website to apply and get in with a full scholarship without paying us any money. How do I know? Because I receive those emails all the time. So
people are
yeah.
They're just like, I went to your website, I followed all your advice, and I got in, and thank you for giving me free advice.
Absolutely. And they always say, I was wondering, like, I feel a little sheepish to reach out because like I didn't pay anything, but I did want to tell you, thank you, because I read the stuff on the website and I got a full scholarship, So that's the vast majority of people are reading the content and either using it or not using it. And the ones who I hear use it and then come back and tell me they get great results. And then a tiny proportion of people are like, hey, I want to apply to these schools and I don't want to do it alone. A great example is I was on a breakthrough call. That is our intake call. It's free, or at least it's currently free, that we have with people, with our breakthrough coaches. And I don't do these calls anymore, but back then I was still doing them. And I asked the person on the phone and I'm like, why would you pay to work with us when we literally went to the same college? Like you could probably do this on your own. And she said, yeah, I could do it on my own. And she was actually the wife of the person who was going to be the client. So we all went to college together. And so the wife, who wasn't even going to be the client, but she replied and she said, we could do it on our own, but you don't get points for doing it the hard way. And that really hit me because I really feel that in communities where people grew up working class or, really just working class, poor, whatever, there's this idea that like, if you can do it yourself, why would you ever pay someone to do it? You know, we're going through that right now in my family. I grew up with, you know, 2 loving parents with professional jobs, but they grew up very poor as migrant farm workers. And they owned the home I grew up in, but it was a very low income, high crime neighborhood. So I really grew up with a lot of those like DIY, scrappy, 6 penny pinching type philosophies. And an example of what's happening right now is I was talking to my dad last night and I was like, well, the tree trimmer wants $300 to trim the trees. And my dad's like, yeah, I can do that. Like, just let me do it. And I'm like, I don't want like a branch to fall on your head, and nor do I want you to kill my tree. And he's like, if I kill it, now you don't have the tree problem. And I'm like,
he's a problem solver.
Yeah, and I'm like, I want the tree. And he's like, why is it so important to have this tree? And I'm like, well, it's a tree. It's a living thing. And the HOA says I need to have trees. So all that is to say is that, you know, there is plenty of free resources for people who are like, you want how much money? Get out, you know? But then also it's not about, because you mentioned the word cost, and we really don't look at it as like, oh, give us money, right, in exchange for nothing. It's an exchange of value, right? So it's a big price tag, our tuition for the program, for the Application Accelerator, but then we're helping our clients get astounding results. So our latest stats are that, and well, actually not latest, they don't include this season because we're still doing the math on all the scholarships, but latest as of a year ago is that 60% of our Application Accelerator clients get money. And when they do, it's an average of $70,000 US per school. That is a fraction.
Dang.
Yeah, that is a fraction of what we are charging in terms of tuition for our program. And I cannot imagine when I was in college applying, I cannot imagine spending $10,000 or $20,000 on admissions consulting. But you know what also I experienced is 150K in student loans, right? So it's one of the, you can spend the money on the front end and get the best help possible to get a huge package possible, or you can scrimp and save and do it yourself like I did and possibly end up paying kind of full ticket on the back end. That isn't even the full ticket. Harvard Business School gave me quite a bit of need-based aid, but as you may or may not, oh, actually, you probably don't even know, Justin, because you have maybe like the Yellow Ribbon program or the GI Bill or something like that.
The second year they paid for. My first year.
Awesome. So
yeah,
my
so
second
awesome.
year was paid for because they were just like, ma'am, you have no money. And I was like, that is so correct. Yeah, have money now. But all of the point is that we see it as an investment in themselves, in their future. And it's like, hey, pay us 10K, 20K, let us help you get as much money as possible for school. Some schools like Harvard Business School, as of right now, do not give out merit scholarships, but we've already helped 2 clients in the 3 years that the full ride at Stanford has existed. And we've gotten a client every year a full ride at Stanford, and it covers 5 years. So if they wanted to get a PhD or law plus business or whatever. So I think we have the highest hit rate that I've heard of so far of any company, and possibly even better than some schools at helping people get into Stanford with the full ride.
Well, that must feel pretty satisfying.
It does. It feels very satisfying. They go on to do some amazing things. One of our clients, Sultan, we helped him get into Harvard Business School, and he was the, let me say it as correctly as possible, he was the second out transgender person ever to attend Harvard Business School. Actually, I think he was 3rd at Harvard Business School, and at every other business school that we helped him apply to, he would have been the 1st.
Wow.
Yes, and he told me recently that he has created the largest transgender clinic in the nation. And I'm like, that's amazing. And I'm really thrilled to have been a small part of his success.
That's great. It's just got to be satisfying for the journey from when you decided to do this. Was this, you kind of founded this pretty soon after, right?
Yeah. So my MBA summer, so the summer we all interned, I interned at a large consumer products goods company, the largest at the time, and they treated me really well. But I just wasn't happy there. But I was helping people apply to grad school for free. And a friend was like, ma'am, this is your business. And I was like, oh, it is my business. And so I decided that I was going to start this business after school. I spent I was going to use jargon. I'm not going to do that. I spent our elective curriculum. I spent our second year of business school when we got to choose all of our own classes, focusing on entrepreneurial courses, online internet type courses, marketing courses, things that would help me run an online business, helping people apply to grad school. And then I wrote a business plan it wasn't actually just the art of applying. It was at the time it was called Grayson Media Group. And it was a network of blogs monetized by premium coaching and consulting. And the art of applying. And then back then, you may or may not remember, but I was the dating advice columnist for The Harvest. And I had a very popular blog called Crazy Girl Nation. And so that was another one. But all that is to say is I submitted that business plan and got $10,000 to start my business. And I'm pretty sure that our classmate Gina, as well as she was also a guest on your show, she also received one, I believe. And I think only like 8 people in the class got that. That's
the Rock Center, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you needed that money.
Oh, absolutely. I was bootstrapped, so I didn't have investor money. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then how did it grow? Like, I assume at the start it was just Kenisha was your advisor, right? And then when did you sort of hit that inflection point and be like, I got to hire? How long did that take?
Well, I always wanted to hire from the beginning. So I had an executive assistant, even from the very, very beginning. I've always had an executive assistant. I really think that is very helpful, whether it's someone local or it's someone, right now, my executive assistant lives in the Philippines and we meet up in person, when it's not a global pandemic, twice a year. And so I've always had an executive assistant, but in terms of other consultants, I think it was year three when I hired other people. As an example of why it's important to trust oneself while taking other people's advice alongside, everyone told me it wouldn't work if I hired other people. They're like, no, you're the personality. No one's going to want to work with other people who aren't you. And it worked phenomenally well. So I just started hiring MBAs and policy grads and law school grads. And I would just approach them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I've got this company. Would you like to join as a consultant? And I would train them, lightly train them, not even a lot of heavy training. It was more about like, hey, here's my philosophy. Here's how we work with clients. But like, you bring your own flavor and expertise to it as well. And now we have a huge team. I think I can't even keep up because I'm not the one who brings them on. I am the one who welcomes them to the team, but my executive assistant, Ellie, interviews them and decides who joins. But I think we're at least 25 to 30 people, and they all graduates of phenomenal institutions, very diverse and diverse in personality as well. Not everybody is a great fit for my personality. I think my personality is a great fit for marketing the business, getting people really excited, helping people believe in themselves. And then every client does get to interact with me. We do a monthly all client Q&A call, and we have so much fun on those calls. I help them, I live edit their essays, I answer their questions. And then if there's no one's asking a question, I cold call people and make them ask a question. This is everyone all together. Then last week we had 15 extra minutes. So I took 5 minutes and just gave them a speech called Your Dreams Are Going to Come True, and here's how to make them come true. And I gave them my 4-part plan for how to make their dreams come true. And they just loved it. So
is that online? Can I find out how to do that?
So it's not online yet, but I can just send it to you, Justin, so you can listen to it. I think we're going to turn that little clip into a podcast episode because it came out pretty well. But it's really wonderful for people to get to interact with me, but have a dedicated consultant who is like, you are my person.
Yeah.
You can reach me for anything.
I think we have a delivery, and Tucker is.
No worries. If you need to go get the delivery, it's all good. That's what happens on live TV.
I'm at my cousin Matt's house. Our friend Rebecca's going to get the delivery. Tucker's super cool and never says a word until the doorbell rings.
And then he's like, I'm going to get the delivery, man.
Sure. Well, so do you think that Harvard Business School prepared you for what you're doing in the world?
I think in some ways Harvard prepared me for what I'm doing. So I'd say for running this business, Harvard prepared me 61%.
What 39% did they miss?
Yes, the rest of the percent, I had to learn on my own. I paid, this might blow people's socks off. So I paid $150K after leaving Harvard in student loans, and I paid them off in 6 years. And I'm very proud of that because I did that as an entrepreneur and writer. But then in addition to that, I've probably paid $80,000 to $100,000 since we graduated in like books, business courses, business coaching. I know you have a business coach and you believe in having a coach. I have one now. And what was that other piece? That other piece, a huge part of it was learning how to sell. It's crazy to me that top MBA programs treat sales as a secondary discipline or like a second class skill when it is extremely important to the survival of any enterprise. It doesn't mean that everyone has to be a master salesperson, but I don't feel that we got even a good foundation in sales. And if you disagree, let me know.
No, you need to know it, and then you need to know how to hire salespeople,
absolutely.
And you need to know how the wrong salesperson can kill the culture of your business too.
Absolutely, Justin, and especially with all the growing interest in two areas, like social enterprise, social impact, the whole impact world, and then the increasing interest in entrepreneurship and startups. Startups are dead without cash, either cash they generate or outside cash. And where does cash come from? Investors or actually selling stuff. So learning sales, sales team management. I would also say I just learned from the school of daily living and running my business, like a lot of client management and customer service. And then let me talk about things that I did learn, though, really well at Harvard, like accounting, fantastic. I never get tempted to do any funny business. Remember in financial reporting and control, how every other class, the lesson was you will go to jail.
They're like accounting is ethics. It's all ethics.
It is. And so accounting, excellent. Our books are chef's kiss clean. So any sort of leadership type dilemma, I feel really, I wouldn't say any, but all the ones I've faced so far, I feel quite prepared. Negotiation, I feel pretty well prepared for. I feel like I'm a very good negotiator. Marketing was really fun, but that was still very large scale. And I did take a class called Competing with Social Networks that did give me a really, gave me a good, Meshach, good foundation in using the internet to market my business. But I actually did an independent study with a professor that I think helped me even more. So, so I'd say 61% prepared by Harvard, and then the rest really prepared by having to run or choosing to run an online business and scale an online business, and just reading books. And I don't mean theoretical heavy books. I mean books written by other people who run successful, bigger than mine online businesses, and then courses and coaching.
Yeah, that's cool. I wanted to ask also about one of the things you did after school is you wrote a book.
Yes.
So what's about Be Your Own Boyfriend? You can kind of get the
Yeah.
philosophy
So
with the title, but how did you decide to do that, and how did it go?
absolutely. So it's got a cheeky title, but what it's about is how to be happy and whole and live a full life, regardless of your relationship status.
Mhm.
And the book was really inspired by a lot of the writing that I was doing on my former, no longer exists blog, Crazy Girl Nation. So I was very anxiously attached, high anxiety dater. And I loved devouring self-help books and then being like, okay, what can I learn from this book about how men work? And it wasn't about like tricking men or anything like that, but it was just like me just being like, I don't understand how dating is so easy for other people. It's not easy for me. And just writing about what I was learning and things like that. And people really liked it. At its peak, crazygirlnation.com had, I think, 35,000 visitors a month. So it was up to 50,000. So it was quite a bit. I know how to build a blog.
Yeah, cool.
And a business. But yeah, if people are still blogging, I still know how to do that. So Be Your Own Boyfriend is I'd say about 1/4 of it is like my best content from Crazy Girl Nation. And the other 3/4 is me reflecting on my own experiences, my personal experiences, my dating experiences. It's not like a tell-all of like, here is every guy, or what. It's not like that.
I would read that book.
Yeah, that would be a delicious book, but that's not what it is. And then also kind of interviews with just like friends and others about their experiences. So it's a fun read. It's available via Amazon. Or if people want a free copy, they can come listen to my podcast, which is called Scale Your Joy. Leave a review by August 3rd, 2021, and my team will send you a free ebook of Be Your Own Boyfriend. So
Clever marketing, Kenisha.
Yeah, I love marketing.
So tell me about Scale Your Joy. How's the podcast going?
Yeah, it's going really well. I love podcasting. I love being a podcast host. I love being a podcast guest. It feels really exciting and fun for me. I actually remember thinking that I should start a podcast when we were in school, which is really hard for me to imagine because I'm like, were they a thing? But they were a thing because I remember I asked one of our professors, who shall not be named, but I was like, we were pretty close. So this is why he was so candid. But I was like, should I like try and be like a YouTube star or like a podcaster? And he was, should I start a podcast? And he said, you got an A+ face for video, but a B+ voice. And I was like, okay. And I wasn't like crushed or anything.
Has he lived in LA? Well, who is this guy?
He would definitely. Wow, that's amazing that you got it. I don't know if he lived in LA, but he's very LA/New York. I'll tell you offline who it was. But so I was like, okay, I won't do it yet. But all these years later, I do have it. So Scale Your Joy is, as far as I can find, the only podcast that teaches academic super achievers like us how to build a life and a business that they love, that allows them to infuse their life and their business with the values of self-expression, creativity, freedom, social impact, while earning well. Right? I think a lot of times, those of us who are super high academic achievers, we went to fancy colleges or really fancy graduate schools. We think that there's a dichotomy between being financially successful and being happy. You have to choose one or the other. And I don't think so. I think that there are trade-offs in life, right? And that we do need to mindfully choose our trade-offs. I don't think that because I value joy and free time and leisure time more than I value making money, that doesn't make me like better. It's just that's what my values are. But for people who do share my values of being like, I want to earn well, like I want to make, I want to basically be in like the top 2-3%, 4% of earners.
Aspirational.
Yeah, like, well, actually, I did the math, right? Because I'm curious, so I do the math when my clients are concerned about, like, am I making enough money, or will I make enough money, or even I do the math for myself, comparing myself to, Black women with graduate degrees, or comparing myself to the general population. So I earn really, really, really well compared to the general population, or even Black women with graduate degrees. But let's say, I don't really know how much our classmates are earning now, but like, there are definitely classmates who are making millions of dollars a year, and I am not. And so
podcasting isn't that lucrative.
Well, my podcast makes me negative $3,000 a month. With my business, I make my full-time
It's a strategic move.
Yeah. But no, the Scale Your Joy, it's my hobby for now. We may monetize through advertising, sponsorships, coaching, merchandise at some point. But for now, it's just a very expensive hobby. Please come and listen at scaleyourjoy.com. We have podcast episodes. The main topics are basically life and happiness. And then the other topics are how to build a business from scratch that is a place where you can bring your skills and talents and your values, be your full self, and earn well. It's important to me that people earn well. That's very important. I think it's a social justice issue.
That's great. Well, so your life hasn't always been joyful. I remember a few years ago you lost your mom, and you got divorced in the same year. As kind of I know you've also had times when you've had to scale back the business and probably let some people go. So there's not I think you're on the normal entrepreneurial journey of it is a roller coaster of life and professional. How do you deal with those downtimes, and how have you dealt with times of real grief and pain?
For sure. I mean, for me, as you can tell, whether you are just meeting me on this broadcast or the recording, or you've known me for 20 years, I'm very consistent in who I am. The way I'm talking to you is the way I talk to my clients. This is who I am. And so I'm professional, but I can't really hide when I'm in deep emotional pain, right? Or physical pain. So I communicate with my team. I communicate with my clients like, hey, everybody, I'm going to be out for the next 6 weeks because I have to have a surgery to have 22 tumors removed from my body. And like, some people might be like, oh, I'll be out for 6 weeks because I'm going to have a surgery. And that's totally their right. For me, I don't think that there is enough comfort with the public discourse about talking about all the reproductive issues that women face and are expected to just walk around and work full time. And it's like, do you know how prevalent like fibroids, which is what I had, uterine tumors are? Like, they are so common, and they really affect a lot of women's lives. And so I'm a private person, but I'm not at all a secretive person. So I respect the privacy of the people in my life, but when it comes to my own very personal things, I'm pretty open with talking about them, because it means a lot to me to help people understand that they're not alone, that they're not broken. Their life isn't ruined because they're getting divorced. They didn't fail at being an adult. You're not a failure of an entrepreneur because you need to reorganize your business and let some people go and figure out a more sustainable model. So for me, a lot of it is communication and just being open with my team when I'm going through things so that they can step up and support me by helping run the business if I need to take a step back. It also takes on the form of like therapy, right? So like going to therapy, and I just having really good, deep friendships. I met Lysandra Rickards at Harvard Business School, and she and I talk out of 20 working days in a month. We probably talk 14 of those days.
Great.
We talk every Monday through Friday. And so that is a really beautiful gift. I'm still in good touch with a small number of close friends from college and from graduate school, and just letting people know what's going on with me so that they can support me and we can support one another. So those are some of the things I would share. I think that a lot of the pain that we feel when we lose people or lose things in life is shame, actually. I think some of it is grief, right? But some of it is shame, like, oh, I lost my job. I'm ashamed. And it's like, you are still worthy just because you are not at this exact moment producing at the highest amount of capitalist output possible. So yeah, that's what I would say there.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the influence of, like, I think your grandparents were a great influence,
Yeah,
and I'm sure your parents. So tell me about some of the early days in the Grayson family and the influence of
absolutely.
these wonderful family mentors.
Beautiful. So on my mom's side, my grandma and grandpa, they are very religious and spiritually minded. They own a beautiful, tiny little church. My grandma had renamed herself. So she added like a little title before her name. So she's Evangelist Beulah May Schultz. And I love how like
Evangelist.
old Black and country her name is. And then my grandpa is Johnny Schultz, not John, Johnny, Johnny Schultz Jr. And he is the Reverend, and my grandma does the music, and they drive around. This is what they do now. So my grandma is 81, and they drive around every morning throughout their community, and they do, they pray for people. So before the pandemic, they would go into each person's house and hold their hand and pray with people. My grandma takes it to the next level. She has like prayer cloths, which I'm not familiar with, but they're like cloth that she like prays over. I wonder if she mists it. I don't know, with like holy water. I don't know. And then she gives them to people. People just love them. So
That's very thoughtful.
Yeah, it's very thoughtful. I don't think she sells them, but I just love all of that. Now someone's at my door. I'm sorry, Justin. I don't know.
Okay, we can pause for your delivery.
Yes. Hey, Tony. Yes, thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, I feel bad. I gotta go back.
No worries. Yeah, please make that look nice. You're on television. Say hello.
Hey, Tony.
All right.
I got a sneak peek at your kitchen. It looks beautiful. Place looks great.
There we go. You got a sneak peek of my kitchen and my bud Tony.
Well, yeah. So you were on your evangelist.
So I grew up, of my own choice, very religious, evangelical Christian. I now have a more mishmash, expensive spiritual tradition, but I still very much love the idea of prayer, right? And drawing on a source greater than myself for anything that I may need in life. Need or want in life, or praying for people who are sick or in violent areas or just lonely, right? I hope you could get me to do a whole podcast on the epidemic of loneliness in our culture. So, I grew up going to church every Wednesday and Sunday, if not more than that. And I think that the world's religious traditions, when not used, as a weapon to colonize and kill or whatever, or actually really have a lot to offer in terms of meaning, purpose, community for people. And so that's a little bit of how I grew up. My grandma on my dad's side, I don't know my grandpa on my dad's side, but he just was never in my life. But my grandma on my dad's side is also 81. So my two grandmas, they live an hour and a half apart.
Mhm.
They don't meet up, but they send each other little gifts, which is like the cutest through me. Like, send your other grandma some plants for me.
That's down in Florida? Huh?
Yeah, in Florida. And they live only an hour and a half driving apart, and their birthdays are only a week apart. Is that the cutest thing in the world?
That's
So
great.
anyway, other grandma, she's 81, and she is this like spunky woman who up until a few years ago was driving a pickup truck, climbing trees, like hanging out in junkyards. Like she I don't even know what kind of character, but she's like a character and the kindest, most generous person. So I just really grew up, really valuing kindness, generosity, turning to God to help me if I need help. And I still really love the idea of like, just because you can't see a solution does not mean that that solution is not on its way.
Wow, that's cool. Well, tell me about you. You have a different sort of spiritual outlook than your grandmother, probably. So, what is your sort of belief system? I guess.
Well, I'm going to scare Tony because Tony was just saying. I like to jokingly call myself a Black millennial witch.
Okay.
So Tony, don't worry. I'm not like a witch who casts spells. Yeah. I don't cast spells on other people, but I use that kind of tongue in cheek to just to conjure up the image of like a woman wearing like a flower crown that has some thorns in it, and she has like a black cat or two trailing behind her. But then I also have a dog because I love dogs, and I'm wearing like a flowy gown, and I'm walking through the forest picking up like edible herbs and stuff to make like a little witch's brew that I'm going to drink while I contemplate the things that I want in life. So that's kind of what I want you to think of.
That is a colorful image.
Yes, that's what I kind of want you to think of. It's not about, I don't believe in like bad spirits and using them to hurt people or anything like that, but more about this idea of like a connection to nature. And then also this idea of like an embrace of femininity and womanhood. And also the idea of magic is real, right? And that there is real joy in acknowledging the everyday magic that is all around us. A small example of the everyday magic that bridges my original kind of super religious upbringing is that just a few weeks ago, I was complaining to my grandma, evangelist, Beulah May Schultz, and I was like, Grandma, it's so hard to buy a house. It's just too hard. It's not gonna work. All the people are coming from California, New York, and they have double the money and it's cash and I'll never get a house. And she said, you just need to pray and God will give you a house. And I'm like, okay, Grandma. I get off the phone with her and I'm like, I will pray, whatever. And I do my prayer. And a few days later, I bid on a house. I go under contract on the house. I'm the offer they chose. It's the house I'm speaking to you from now. And it was my grandma's birthday, the day that I got the house. And that's just like a little bit of everyday magic.
Right. So you see it often.
Oh,
things like that. Yeah.
All the time.
That's cool. I saw an article in the New York Times about like this sort of witch moment that's been happening the last few years. Would you say that there's sort of a community, or it's kind of you're part of a larger
it's definitely a community
movement,
It's definitely a community. Just to help you understand how much of a moment witchiness is having is that I had some friends over to my house, and just to help you understand the demographics, it was 2 white gay males with Ivy League MBAs, a straight white female. They all came over and I was like, oh, I forgot sage to sage the house, which is like a witchy thing. I actually think it's a Native American indigenous culture thing, which witches have appropriated.
You've appropriated it. Good.
All of them were like, oh, but I had sage. I could have brought it. All of them had it.
Yeah.
But as far as, is there a community? Yes. My favorite community is a tongue-in-cheek kind of lighthearted one on Reddit called Witches versus Patriarchy. So it's women, primarily women, showing pictures of like their black cats or their pretty decoration or their witchy tattoos or funny memes. And then sometimes there's the occasional guy in the group, but that's a nice community, a nice lighthearted witchy community.
Right. Well, that's cool. So you're in your new house, and so
Yes.
that means Austin is probably a long-term commitment for Kenisha.
Austin is a long-term commitment. When I freak out and I tell my boyfriend like, "Oh no, I'm getting trapped here," and he's like, "No, that you just own a home here. Like we can go wherever." I love Austin. My intuition tells me that we meaning Tyler and I and Zadie are going to get called to go to Colorado. I don't have any particular excitement necessarily about Colorado, but that's just kind of my intuition. And that'd be okay with me. If it's not too cold. Is it cold?
There's some cold weather in Colorado from time to time.
I don't want to be cold, but
well, you have a house in Austin. Maybe you can have two houses.
Oh, not maybe. I will for sure have at least two houses.
Okay.
I'm already excited about house number 2.
Well, my cousin Lynn is putting her house on the market this summer in Denver. So.
Oh, in Denver. Oh my God. The Denver market is just as hot as the Austin market.
Yeah.
No, I think my second place is going to be more like an apartment or a tiny house, or maybe it'll be a whole other house. But as Tony can attest, Tony's been here every day since I got this house. So it's a lot of work. A house needs a lot of maintenance, and I'm not handy. So you got to balance that.
Right. You're not doing the plumbing jobs.
I am not. Yeah, I'm not. I don't know how. If I could, I would try. Yeah.
Right. Well, and so do you have grander visions for the art of applying, or what's the next 5 years and 10 years of your career plan that you?
Absolutely. So we've been in business. We're celebrating 11 years. And so with the 10 years going forward, things I'm excited about are a B2B part of the business, really selling spots in our signature program, Application Accelerator, to universities, or alumni organizations or corporations. I'm also excited about eventually somebody else taking over the Kenisha role and me staying around as an advisor. I think it's important to have fresh energy. I'm full of ideas, but I don't have to be the person the most in charge every day. And also, I'm very entrepreneurial. It's very likely I'll want to do more and more with Scale Your Joy, write more books, things like that. I'm really grateful that the structure that the Art of Applying has now does allow me to do something like take 6 weeks off and the business can still run. I think the next part of the journey is to see how would the Art of Applying do with me gone for a whole quarter? Okay, we did a whole quarter. Can we grow the business, not just maintain it with Kenisha gone? Can we have things running better with me on vacation than they do with me pinging people with my ideas? So those are some of the things. And I would love to, keep developing proprietary, insider information, intangible stuff, but then also our own software is interesting to me. We already do quite a bit of what's called no-code programming at the Art of Applying for our clients. I'm very good at that, and I love no-code programming. So my boyfriend's always like, "Yeah, you're a coder," and I'm like, "Okay," but yeah, so
that's cool. You have time for coding? No coding.
Yeah, well, it's not even time. It's just that I when I see a piece of software that's 70% of what I need, but it costs 1/100th or something of what it would cost to develop it from scratch, I'm like, I'll take the 70% of what I need and I'll adjust it to be what we need. And we've done a great job of that with some software.
That's cool. So I guess if you're doing these tests to sort of step away, culture's pretty important. Like setting the right culture. This wasn't on my question list for you, but do you have a sort of a philosophy on how do you do that? Like how are you like making sure that your team is able to operate at the high level that you want them to, and also with the same values?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is just my Kaneisha Grayson's personality attracts a certain type of person who likes my personality and repels a certain type of person who does not. So that's real easy. But then also we have clear company values. They all start with C, which makes them a little easier to remember, but I'll name some of them. One is calm. We do our work in a calm, easeful way. One of our values is celebration. We celebrate our wins, what's going well, and we look for ways to make work fun. Another one of our values is cash. So we're always knowledgeable. Everyone who works full time currently, it won't always be this way, but people who work full time for the Art of Applying know how much money we brought in each week. And they know if we have any debt, which we usually don't. They also know how much money is in the business bank account if you work full time for the company. Because I think people need to know, like, our cash position when they're, people are like, let's have a retreat on the moon or whatever. So, and then another one of our values is collaboration, right? Working together. So we've got like 8 values that all start with C that we all discuss those values. We talk about which ones resonate the most with us, which ones resonate the least. People have one-on-ones so that if they are struggling in their role or even sometimes struggling in life, because that can affect work, so that their manager can help them navigate that, not like being their life coach, but just sometimes life stuff is going to affect work. Here's a really simple but fun example is I asked one of my full-time people during her one-on-one, I said, what's the most frustrating thing to you right now? And she said, well, it's not something you can help with. It's just so hot in the Philippines right now. And my AC bill is so high, so I barely ever run the AC. And I asked her, how much her AC bill was, and it was like for the company, like nothing. But for her, it was enough to make her not run her air conditioner. And I said, you know what? Congratulations. The company now pays your air conditioning bill and the bill of all team members in the Philippines. And we call it the Keeping It Cool bonus.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thank you. And the only requirement is you have to run your air conditioner during work when you're working. If you want to save money and not run it later, but you have to run it so that you can be nice and cool and comfortable. That's a personal thing, but it was affecting their work.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, your career, your joy that you are spreading is something to celebrate. It's so great to talk to you. And I'm glad you joined for this chat and to catch up.
Thank you, Justin. I had a lot of fun chatting with you in person yesterday, and I had more fun continued on this. And I hope that you continue spreading the wonderful, warm happiness that you are spreading. And also, I don't want to say warm happiness because it's not always about happiness, but meaning, right? And context that you are spreading with the work that you're doing. So it's been my pleasure to be here.
Thanks. Well, I'm coming back to Austin sometime and we'll do a housewarming when you are able to have visitors. And when Tony's done with his work.
Yes, I think Tony left. Tony left without even talking to me. He's like, she's on TV. I don't know what's happening. All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Justin.
All right. Take care. See you later, Kanisha.
Bye.